Part A, Rule 1, beginning on the international side. For Rule 1, we are going to play a bit of a tennis match, going back and forth between the international and taking a look at the inland side so that we can compare and contrast the differences between these rules. Very similar in content and format, but the application and specifics are somewhat different, so we'll take a look at that. A. These rules shall apply to all vessels upon the high seas, and in all waters connected therewith, navigable by seagoing vessels. Okay, so nowhere here did it mention the demarcation lines, but we know those to be true because of the introduction. Flipping back to the introduction for the international rules, the final paragraph lays that out for us. Applicable on waters outside the established lines of demarcation, which here in part alpha is read to be upon the high seas and in all waters connected therewith, navigable by seagoing vessels. Flipping over now to the inland side, alpha begins, these inland rules, apply to all vessels upon the inland waters of the United States and to vessels of the United States on Canadian waters of the Great Lakes, to the extent there is no conflict with Canadian law. Okay, so U.S. vessels on Canadian waters of the Great Lakes need to abide by the inland rules of the road to the extent there's no conflict with Canadian law. All right. These regulations in the subchapter, laid out as subchapter ECHO within 33 CFR, these regulations have preemptive effect over state or local regulation within the same field. So if there are state or local regulations, these will take effect over them. Now back on the international side of the house for Bravo. Nothing in these rules, nothing laid out here, no rule in this book shall interfere with the operation of special rules made by an appropriate authority for the following sorts of waterways, roadsteads, harbors, rivers, lakes, or inland waterways connected with the high seas and navigable by seagoing vessels. Such special rules shall conform as closely as possible to these rules. Okay, so these international rules shall not interfere with the operation of special rules made by an appropriate authority, which is going to slide nicely into the inland side when we flip down to Bravo there. Here we are on the inland side, Bravo 1. These rules, these inland rules, constitute special rules made by an appropriate authority. Okay, using the exact same language laid out for us in the international rules, saying that these are those rules that they were referring to. These are special rules, and we have an appropriate authority, the United States federal government. So these are those such rules within the meaning of referencing the rule itself, within the meaning of Rule 1 Bravo of the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea, right? All vessels, Part 2, complying with the construction and equipment requirements of the international rules, international regulations are considered to be in compliance with these rules. So if you build a ship in compliance with the international code, the international regulations, you will also be in compliance with the inland rules. All right, so that's an important thing. The inland rules are gaining their authority, their legal justification through the meaning of 1 Bravo on the international side, claiming that the inland rules are special rules made by the United States federal government, which is an appropriate authority, and nothing, therefore, in the international rules shall interfere with the inland rules. Okay, again, we have another general rule here that nothing in these rules, no rule in this book, shall interfere with the operation of any special rules made by the government of any state with respect to additional station or signal lights, shapes, or whistle signals for 3 things. There are 3 things that shall not be interfered with. The government of any state can make special rules for ships of war, for vessels proceeding under convoy, and for fishing vessels engaged in fishing as a fleet. Okay, so there are 3 things that may have distinctive light shapes, whistle signals given through special rules by the government of any state, and international rules shall not interfere with that. However, The international rules says that such station or signal lights, shapes, or whistle signals, so whatever the special rules are made by the government of any state, cannot be mistaken for any light, shape, or signal authorized elsewhere under these rules. This is a common theme throughout the book. I want you to highlight cannot be mistaken. These cannot be mistaken. Nothing, no special rule shall be interfered with by the international rules. However, no special rule can be mistaken for anything actually covered under the international rules. Because why? You're going to confuse the lookout. We need the lookout. We need the proper watchstander to be able to identify what the vessel is, what they are doing, to assess risk of collision, and to understand the hierarchy or whether or not we are in restricted visibility, whatever it might be. Nothing can interfere with that. Okay, so then if we switch over to the inland side, nothing in the inland rules, so nothing in these rules, no inland rule shall interfere with the operation of any special rules made by the Secretary of the Navy. Okay, so that's the authority who is going to be able to give additional station or signal lights, shapes, or whistle signals for ships of war, of course, vessels proceeding under convoy, or by the Secretary with respect to regarding fishing vessels engaged in fishing as a fleet. As with the international rules, they cannot be mistaken for anything else authorized elsewhere under these rules, and they need to be documented. Notice of such special rules, shall be published in the Federal Register and shall have effect as if they were a part of these rules. The important thing to take away from Charlie, I know it's a large paragraph, but know that the Secretary of the Navy, like on the inland side, much like the government of any state on the international side, can give additional station or signal lights, shapes, or whistle signals. All these identifiable things can give them for 3 types of ships of war, vessels under convoy, and fishing vessels engaged in fishing as a fleet. But whatever is given cannot be confused or mistaken for anything else authorized by the rules. And there are many additional station and signal lights that we use in the Navy. Think about flight deck lights. Think about man overboard lights, well deck lights. A lot of operations that we do at sea fall under special rules that are authorized by the Secretary of the Navy. They cannot be confused with anything else published in this, but we use them often. Those are covered under the Code of Federal Regulation. So it's important to know that this is commonplace. This is not just legal language. This is describing things that we do every day at sea. So there's this double cross here, which brings us to the footnote at the bottom of the page talking about submarines. Submarines may display as a distinctive means of identification an intermittent flashing amber or yellow beacon with a sequence of 1 flash per 3 seconds followed by a 3-second off period. All right, so what is that going to look like? Or I'm going to make the sound because you can't see me. Flash, 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 off, 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 flash, 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 off, off, off. Right, so 1 flash per second for 3 seconds. Flash, flash, flash. And if we want to think of that, put your Morse code hat on and think of that as dit, dit, dit. Which Morse code is that? If you said Sierra, you would be absolutely right. Sierra for submarines. So a flashing amber Sierra followed by a 3-second off period will, as long as it's amber, will mark a submarine. The same is true on the international side for submarines. Moving on to Delta, traffic separation schemes, TSSs, may be adopted by the organization, by that we know to be the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, for the purposes of these rules. So TSSs may be adopted by the IMO for the purpose of this rule. Pretty straightforward. And Delta on the inland side says that traffic separation schemes may be established for the purposes of these rules Vessel traffic service regulations may be in effect in certain areas. Now, though VTSs are not, the vessel traffic service is not mentioned on the international side, many countries have their own, and you can look them up. And to learn a little more about VTSs, let's flip over to later in the book. On page 167, we're going to find the vessel traffic management for the US that gives us a good definition of what they are used for. And here in the middle of the first paragraph, it gives us the purpose and intent of vessel traffic services, which is that they will enhance navigation, vessel safety, maritime environmental protection, and promote safe vessel movement by reducing the potential for collisions, rammings, and groundings, and the loss of lives and property associated with the incidents within VTS areas established hereunder. They also provide the mariner with information related to the safe navigation of the waterway. This will certainly fall under your jurisdiction as NAV and ANAV. Knowing all the information regarding the VTS that you may be interacting with, how to call them, how to communicate them, when, where, and why, and what you need to report. All of this you need to research wherever you're going, whether or not it's being used. And again, this is regarding the inland, those in the United States. Echo. Whenever the government concerned shall have determined that a vessel of special construction or purpose cannot fully comply with the provisions of any of these rules with respect to a variety of things. So it's about to list off all the things that perhaps a vessel with special construction or purpose can't actually achieve, including the number, position, range, or arc of visibility of lights or shapes, continued, as well as to the disposition and characteristics of sound signaling appliances. So this vessel isn't able to do exactly what is being asked of them. The rules direct that such vessel shall comply with such other provisions in regard to those same things, as her government shall have determined to be the closest possible compliance with these rules in respect to the vessel. So if you can't fully comply, the government shall have determined that it was done as closely as possible. The inland side says the same number of things, though it is referring to the secretary. And the secretary, moving on here to the second to last sentence here, the secretary may issue a certificate of alternate compliance for a vessel or class of vessels, specifying the closest possible compliance with these rules. So as navigator on McFall, which is a destroyer, we were not in compliance with the displacement of the mast headlights. We had one just above the pilot house and one up the mast, too close together, not giving the lookout an accurate profile of our length, because the target angle would look strange right at night, because even a profile of a destroyer might look like you're actually on the bow, something like that. So a certificate of alternate compliance was issued to us, and it's an inspectable item. Make sure during your turnovers that you put eyes on that. That should be in your mob end binder, and that should be kept for the life of the ship. You can also look up your digital copy online, and it will give the exact reason why a vessel or a class of vessels are not in compliance with the rules. So I got a little bit ahead of myself, but that's what the last sentence says. Their certificates of alternate compliance for vessels of the Navy will be issued by the Secretary of the Navy. Now, the Secretary, referring to the Secretary in which the Coast Guard is operating, which is the Department of Homeland Security, may accept a certificate of alternate compliance issued by a contracting party to the international regulations if it determines that the alternate compliance standards are substantially the same. Okay, so the Secretary of Homeland Security may accept another contracting party's certificate of alternate compliance, meaning that that ship is then in accordance with the inland rules. And one of the funniest rules in this entire book, Golf for Rule 1, the operator of each self-propelled vessel 12 meters or more in length shall carry what? on board and maintain for ready reference a copy of these rules.